It is Sunday, April the 27th, and this is Two Guys, One Cup, an AFL adjacent podcast. My name is Will Anderson.
And my name is Charlie Clausen. And is it too early, Will?
Oh, yeah, for what?
You know what it's too.
Too early for what? To give up on football again?
No, is it too early for this? Do you remember when Carlton couldn't win a game of football? Do you remember that?
Yeah, I remember. I mean, it did feel like there were times today that time was going to be 2 hours ago, right?
Yeah.
Like there was a moment where Geelong got a sniff and I thought, oh, here we go. Carlton feel like they're home and host in this, but they're gonna get I guess that's why they call it the Blues, their version of the Collie Wobbles, the Carlton Wobbles in the second half, and Geelong are going to do it again. They're going to storm over the top. But no, the Blues are back, baby, because it turns out that we're only 7 rounds into the season and anything could still happen.
Well, it's funny, isn't it, right? Like I kind of was getting a bit flat about like we've lost 3 in a row now after such a bright start. But then the words of my good friend Will Anderson are bouncing around in my head saying it's too early. No one knows anything. And you're right, because I got swept up in all the excitement of the Saints winning, the Blues losing in the first 5 rounds. And now that's completely turned on its head. And the other thing that kind of drives me a bit mental is all those Blues fans saying, well, if we just beat up on West Coast and North, maybe that'll give us enough confidence, to get our form back. And they're right.
It worked. Yeah,
It
was absolutely, that was
really
exactly
well.
what they needed. They just needed a couple of easy kills. In fact, I think from now on, that might be a strategy that people need to implement, right? You need to, when they're putting together the fixture at the start of the season, because they negotiate around big marquee games and stuff like that. But obviously for our teams, the Saints, the Bulldogs, it's always hard to get ourselves these huge marquee games.
Yeah.
So instead of us negotiating for marquee games, I believe we should be going into the draw going, no, it's fine. We don't need like an Anzac Day. No, you can do whatever you want to do at Easter. Gather round. Yep, that's fine. We'll play on like a netball court or whatever you need us to do to make that work. That is absolutely fine. We're happy with any of that. But we would like an easy kill draw. So every like 3 weeks or so, or immediately after we're playing teams that we think we're going to go badly against, we demand an easy kill.
Well, I think it's the only way to keep the supporters' hopes up. But then how do you predict the easy kills when you're scheduling the season?
Well, that's what still makes it exciting. Like, I mean, you have a guess that West Coast or North or Richmond are going to be easy kills, but then occasionally they are hard to kill.
like Steven Seagal or Jean-Claude Van Damme.
like one of those guys. Hard to kill.
Here's a stat that I'm not sure if you know, but this year already, St Kilda have played in Adelaide 3 times. We've played both. We played the Crows.
You played all 3 Adelaide teams.
And gather round. We played gather round. Collingwood and Carlton have not once in their history played both Port Adelaide and Adelaide away in the same season. We've done it twice and had gather round in the first 7 rounds of this season.
Wasn't there like some stat last week that it was like, this guy's name's Greg. He's played like in more places than Scott Pendlebury has in 900 games.
Yeah, it was a 20-gamer for GWS, has played in more grounds than Scott Pendlebury's played in 400 years.
Scott Pendlebury has to ask him what Monica's like.
I mean, it is funny too, isn't it? Like, because you're someone who's embraced the inequities of the competition. Like, that's part of it. It is what it is. And I do think that I agree to a certain extent, but then you've got a premiership. So like, it's kind of easier for you to go, well, like it is what it is, but on any given Sunday, like a team can, or any given final series, a team can just sneak in and get a flag. Yeah. I don't have the luxury of that perspective because my team hasn't done that. So I think I'm in the same way, like an incel is driven further and further into 4chan. Like, I feel like I'm getting driven further and further into kind of like anti-AFL sentiment.
But what does it really mean? In the grand scheme of things, you've seen plenty of seasons where your team has been good. You saw one season where in the very last game of the season, your team was equally as good as another team. Equal first. You came equal first 1 year in your life. Why does it matter that, why does it matter to us so much that why do premierships matter so much? I guess is what I'm getting
I think it's
at.
different for it's different for every supporter group. And I honestly feel like for St Kilda supporters, a lot of it has to do with like self-esteem about you're not meant to care what other people think. You're not meant to you're not, you're meant to be in the bubble, or, you concentrate on what you can control. But I think for a lot of Saints fans, we've had sand kicked in our face for 150 plus years, or 100, if you minus the premiership year, every year but 66, we've had sand kicked in our face. And we just want to do the kicking once. We just want to be able to, I think I've heard Broden talk about it a few times. It took me by surprise. But Broden's talked about Saints fans being incredibly volatile and aggressive. And when they're up, they're really up. And, when you write them off, they'll get angry, which is partly, I identify with that. I got very angry at all three of them when they wrote off the Saints at the start of the season.
Did? Yeah, you called them out. We almost had an inter-podcast beef.
A beef. So I think there is this anxiety for Saints fans just to kind of, I don't know, I'm going off the chat that I'm a part of.
Yeah.
When we have sort of fantasized about what would you do if we ever won the flag, the overwhelming response is,
what would they do?
The overwhelming response is just cry. It's just like a cathartic release of all this sort of pain. And
do you feel like these are people who just need a good cry?
Yes.
Maybe just go and see
supporters. That's all we do.
Maybe just go and see a really sad movie or something. Go and watch, what was that Red Dog, that Australian film, Red Dog? Why don't the Saints fans get together? Why doesn't Ross Lyon get all the Saints fans together, get them to the MCG, and then show them? They play the drawn grand final on the screen, and then they play Red Dog, and everyone just has a cry together and gets out of the system.
You're misunderstanding. We want tears of joy. We've had tears of despair. It's all been tears. We don't need to watch Titanic.
Okay, all right. I sorry, I did misunderstand. You're right.
Yeah. One of the guys in the chat said, if we were to win, he would celebrate for a week, then burn his membership and all his merch and just forget that he'd ever barracked for the club at all. He just needs that closure. He's invested so much.
Yeah.
He doesn't intend to continue this. He just needs to see the story end, and then he can fucking move on with his life. And I think that is a relatable sentiment to a lot of Saints fans. It's the metaphor I think of is if you're a parent of a troubled child, you're fuck, I can't abandon this kid. This kid would be lost without me. I've got to stick up for this kid because everyone's coming for him or her. I've just got to get them in my head. If I can just get them through high school and they're an adult, once they're out on their own 2 feet, then good luck to you. If you get your life together, good. But my job is to shepherd you to this point. Once you get to this point, then, we can either continue this relationship or we can go our own separate ways. But I am committed to getting you to adulthood. That's what it feels like.
But is that a healthy thing to sign yourself up for when there's little or no hope of that happening? If that's the thing that you've pinned all your hopes on.
When there's a 5% chance every year, statistically, of that happening. No.
Or less. But I joke a bit because that's clearly what happened to me. We won the premiership. In fact, I was out at the Bulldogs this week filming some stuff for them. They're doing a drive for... I went and sat on there's a chair at the Whitten Oval that has a little, plaque on it. And when they redid the Western Oval into the Whitten Oval with the big upgrade, they took the old bench seats, and there's one in the museum that has my little plaque on it, but they've redone it with everybody's supporter ones. And I actually went and sat in my seat for the first time. I hadn't sat there. It's nice. It's on the 50-meter line. I watched some training for a while. It was, it was good fun. Libba was there, Tony Liberatore. So I got to see Tony as well, which was really nice to run into him. I hadn't seen him for a very long time. And but the truth of it is that they were interviewing me about, my connection with the Bulldogs in 2016 and all these things. And what it came up to all the time was that all the pain beforehand felt worth it when we won because it made it even more special. In fact, I think as a Bulldogs fan, we got to experience something that very rarely, the success. This is the one thing maybe you can point at a Collingwood or a Hawthorn or these teams that have had this like huge level of sustained success is you've never had enough time in between periods of success to really appreciate it when it came. And I think that like for teams that have that breakthrough moment, there is that every bit of pain we went through until now, it kind of wipes it all clean. You get that etch-a-sketch, but you also get more joy out of it. I think it is the edging of AFL football in the, the more you store it up, the more time there is between victories, the more it feels good when it finally happens. So I get for St Kilda fans, there's been all the edging without any of the release, and they just need some release.
Yeah, we've got incredible blue balls. We've got 150 plus years blue balls. Like, because even our flag,
150 years of gooning.
Even our flag, which is obviously almost too old for most Saints. I mean, definitely too old for most Saints to remember. But the other aspect of it is famously, that was back in the day where, the teams would swap jumpers after a game. And so the only photo of our premiership captain holding a premiership cup, he's wearing a Collingwood Guernsey. So like if you go to the Saints Museum, there's Daryl Baldock wearing a Collingwood jumper holding the cup. It's like, it's so St Kilda. Like it is. Wow. Yeah. Like it's bizarro world. But having said that, I'm actually in a good place.
Is there could the little saint with the halo, the little saint symbol that has the halo?
Man.
Stickman. Is that what he's called? Stickman?
Stickman, yep.
Okay. So Stickman the saint. What if instead of
unrelated to what he looks like, it's just because he's got a massive dick.
It used to be called Dickman, and they're like, we have to change this. Can we make it more St Kilda friendly? Yeah. Okay, we'll put an ST at the start. So is it Sisyphus? It's the myth of Sisyphus is the one where he rolls
pushing the rock up the hill. Yeah.
So could the Saints logo? Could the Saint take the ring off the top and then just be seen pushing it up the hill every year? And then it just rolls down again and then you push it up. And that's now the new symbol of the Sisyphean Saints.
Yeah, I think that would be perfect. That or like just the opening of Raiders of the Lost Ark, where it's just the giant boulder.
Where it's just rolling.
Just a stick man running for his life, being crushed by expectation and unfulfilled potential.
Did you see the press conference with Ross?
Yeah.
Thoughts?
Interesting, right?
Yeah.
I think he was clearly frustrated. The idea of dragging, so the chat is around Hugo Garcia, who's like a second-year player, played 16 games, gets subbed off halfway through the second quarter, and then that footage of Ross on the bench having a go at him. I don't know. I mean, I feel like coaching has moved beyond that. I don't know what was said though. Like, because I don't know. I mean,
you're no good and you're bloody wasting my time. Get off.
Yeah, it's hard to know because, like,
I listened to
if I was in the situation,
I listened to Lee Montagna on the radio today.
Yeah,
and he was talking about it. And those guys all love Ross, like so much. And he said, with Ross, the thing that you love about him is it's always about the game and it's not personal.
Right.
And he said, so it would have been, we had to get you out because you weren't doing what's required of you today. You were a detriment to the team, but it wouldn't have been about him being a bad person. It would, like he said, he's very good at separating the action from the person.
I mean, I think the problem is I see it from my point of view. I would hate to be sitting on the bench getting yelled at by Ross.
Do you know what I would do? Like a St Kilda fan who's just either watched Titanic or seen their team win a premiership. I would cry.
Because the other thing is, like, you're going up against a premiership midfield. He was lining up on Lockie Near, or at least he and Jack Steele, like a two-time Brownlee medalist, one of the greatest midfielders of the modern era. So I'm just not sure what are you saying to that? Like, you've got to get your hands on the ball and we're going to get first choice. Yeah. Have you seen who I'm playing against? Like, I'd love to do that. But, I've played 16 matches so far and I'm lining up on a guy who's played 200 plus games and has two Brownlows around his neck. Like, what are you communicating to the player by yelling at them about the fact that they're not good enough? Like, isn't that apparent that the team we're fielding at the moment is not good enough? Like, I
don't know if, I mean, it's hard to know with Ross, right? Because he also, like, likes to yell at journalists in the press conference. So you don't really know.
We know what he does? He does every week. He turns the question back on the journalist.
Yeah.
So, Ross.
What do you think?
Yeah, what did you say? What did you think? And the funny thing is, you always think he's about to kind of like go the journalist, but then the journalist will give his observation. He'll go, yeah, that's right. That pretty much sums it up.
Yeah. It is true. I might start doing that we've got to start back doing Gruen this week. Imagine if I just like start doing my press on Wednesday when I'm doing like 14 interviews, and every time someone's like, what's on Gruen tonight? What do you think?
What do you think?
What
did you observe?
What have you thought about the election?
Yeah. There's also the kind of passive aggressive, like he always does this thing too where like someone said, so why did you sub off Garcia? And he's like, well, how much do you know about midfield? Like, do you know about forward press ball and something like some technical term about like what happens to the midfield? And it's like, you're doing that on purpose to like create some kind of separation. It's part of your feeding the chook strategy where it's like, you're just going to throw out a bunch of stuff to maintain the impression of being in control. I'm not against Ross Lyon. I think he's a great coach and I think we're on the right track, but we're a young side and this is going to happen where we're going to play really well for a few games and then we're going to fall in a heap for a few games. And so I think the hard part for the Saints fan is like, it's so exciting when it's going well, but then it feels so awful when it's going badly. And those two ends of the spectrum are so far apart at the moment. It's not like, it's the reliable Ross Lyon teams of old where they never get beaten by more than, 4 goals or something. We're getting beaten by big scores nowadays.
Brisbane are good though, right? Like, they were last year's premiers. They're still going, like, apart from one aberration, they've still been going pretty well this season.
Yeah, and like that, and the losses we've had, we lost to Adelaide, who are a pretty handy team, although they're not really putting it together. I feel like I should hit the memory harp there.
Remember when Adelaide were the best team in the entire competition?
And then the Bulldogs, who, for all intents and purposes, look
Remember when the Bulldogs season was completely written off because Bontempelli wasn't going to play and half of the players?
Well, what do you reckon about this bottom boys thing, like the Darcy thing? I don't want to wear a tinfoil hat, but I'm starting to wonder if maybe this was planned. This was a planned injury.
It's the ultimate bottom boys season.
Yeah, so Bevo calls Sam Darcy.
Think about it. Firstly, Bevo out of contract.
Yep.
So Bevo's out of contract. That's what you need. So if you're going to go the whole bottom boys, if you're going all in on being the bottom boys, you've got to basically put your backs against the wall in every scenario, right? Mm-hmm. So Bevo's going into the season without a coaching contract. Bontempelli's going into the season without a contract extension.
Yeah.
Jamara, our number one, pick, isn't playing. He's out doing social media and telling Nick Dacos that he loves him on Instagram and stuff. Whatever else he's up to.
That's going well.
All Australian Adam Treloar out for most of the season.
Cody Waitman.
Our best forward Cody Waitman out for most of the season. Our best player Bontempelli out for the first 6 games. That's pretty bottom boys. And then just when everyone's starting to go, Sam Darcy, best player in the competition, the Bulldogs are going to be amazing. Well, then Bevo's like, well, this isn't working for our bottom boy strategy. We've got to.
What's the one blue chip we've got in this lineup? Take him out.
We've got to take him out. Yeah.
So do you reckon that he goes to Sam Darcy and he says, grab your knee in first quarter against the Saints, grab your knee like you've hurt it real bad. We'll get Super Mario to come out to you. He'll take care of it. He'll say, oh, no, it's ACL. Dr. Zimmerman, get him in, like if Essendon were able to pull some sort of shonky backroom medical thing, then I'm sure the Dogs can do it. So Zimmerman writes up a phony injury report. Because it wasn't. We thought it was an ACL, right? This is very suspicious.
Yeah.
Everyone said
it wasn't.
Then it wasn't? It's just a bit of bruising.
Yeah.
Pretty soon we're going to see photos like Sam Darcy's in Bali or something like that. Just fucking having a good time. Him and Jamara.
He's out with Jamara as well. They're both on holidays.
This is Bevo's strategy. And then you get to finals and you bring back Jamara and Sam. So Jamara's been foxing us this whole time.
Yeah, Jamara's in the best shape he's ever been in. Loves the Bulldogs. This is all part of a long con.
Yeah.
He's all in. He's the most committed because he's the one who has to wear all the bad press up until this point.
It's funny. I'm not sure if you've been paying attention to the wrestling, but The Rock is coming under a lot of fire at the moment because he was the one who turned John Cena heel leading up to WrestleMania. He injected himself into the story as he was the one who led John Cena astray. So when John Cena took on Cody Rhodes at WrestleMania, everyone naturally assumed, oh, well, the twist in this is that The Rock will come out at some point and that'll be, the next stage of the story.
Yeah.
But The Rock never did. The Rock sent out like an underling, Travis Scott, who was at the Elimination Chamber. And so everyone was like, hang on, what the hell is going on? And to the point where The Rock had to sort of go and do press and say, oh no, it was always the plan. I was just going to do Elimination Chamber, but we decided not to inject myself into WrestleMania because it was going to take the spotlight away. But everyone is like, that doesn't make any sense.
Doesn't make sense.
And I'm starting to think, oh, maybe The Rock is trying to work us. Like maybe he's making, this is like part of a long game.
Okay.
I reckon this is what Bevo could be doing with the Bulldogs. I mean, Aaron Norton is such a better player when he has no other forwards to play with in the forward line.
Well, I mean, he's managed to sneakily send Rory Lobb back to the forward line as well, which is not something that I ever thought I'd be in favour of.
And he was actually okay, I thought, Rory Lobb.
I thought he played great. I mean, Rory Lobb, for all the ribbing of Rory Lobb that was involved in this podcast for the first, year he was at the Bulldogs, it was, I think, probably the best thing that Jared Waitley's ever done is when he broke Jared Waitley, Rory, I think, knew that was time for a wake-up call. You know what I mean? Like he knew that if I've broken Jared Waitley, if I've let down Jared Waitley, it's time for me to turn my game around. And that was classic Bottom Boys, right? To not only send him back to the back line, but then he's become this sort of Dennis Rodman-esque, haircut of the week style character.
Although with that skinhead now, like super romper stomper vibes. Because
it looked real romper stomper, didn't it?
Yeah, very neo-Nazis. Because he's gangly and weird looking already.
Wasn't that Footscray? Well, that was that part. maybe in pre-season, said we're gonna get the Footscray spirit back.
The old school Footscray, back when it was just a turf war.
They're training in Doc Martens.
Recently arrived immigrants and hardcore white nationalists. Did you see there was a celebration that Rory Lobb after he kicked a goal? And he's done this kind of little move like this.
Oh yeah, the little pincher.
But Bucks has gone like, oh, money. And then to hear Hutto go, no, I believe that's pinchers.
Yeah, he's the lobster. He's the rock lobster. But also, I love that Bucks immediately goes, "Ooh, money!
Ooh, money!" That's where his mind went. But it was a very. It wasn't the most confident of declarations.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's take a look quickly at some of these other games. So the D's, are they in their easy kill territory now? They beat Freo, which is not an easy kill, but it was at the MCG. Now they've beaten Richmond only by 20 points.
Mm-hmm.
So they're 1 win off having 3 in a row.
Yeah.
Is that bringing back from the dead, or because you would have put Carlton and Melbourne in the same category like a couple of weeks ago, right? Everyone was saying the coach is gone, the game plan sucks, got to start again. They're too contested. They have to get run off half back.
I mean, I watched a bit of that Melbourne game, and they do have a lot of good players still.
Yeah.
That's the thing you're reminded of. When they're playing well, you're like, you actually have like a lot of really good players. So if all your really good players could play well, there's no reason they shouldn't be a good team. But
they've got the Eagles next week.
Oh, there you go.
So it is
they've got one of the best easy kills. Yeah. But I mean, is this too much? Don't you want to spread your easy kills out a little bit more over the season?
I think
or do you
need
think
at
a
least
run of 3? You need 2.
Yeah, but that's the thing. I would argue the Freo wasn't an easy kill. That was an inspiring win.
You're right. Yeah.
And now they've beaten Richmond, then they get West Coast next week. So they've actually done themselves a big favour by beating Freo because now they get.
Oh yeah, okay.
But it would be very Melbourne for them to lose next week, the easy kill, because it is in Perth.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. All right. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Actually, I think that. How does West Coast? Like, are they going to continue to be an easy kill? Do you think West Coast? Like, I mean,
well, they've gone down by 50 points today.
I was watching a bit of that today, though. They didn't look terrible.
No,
they've got, I mean, Harley seems like he's starting to play better again, but they've got some pretty good players.
Yeah, except their captain doesn't want to be there.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a problem.
Yeah, that is true. And neither does Chad Warner, it turns out.
Yeah, well, that's the bigger story that I think is probably not getting as much attention because they're Sydney, because they're New South Wales, but the Swans, who started like a house on fire.
Oh my God. Like Warner was on fire. They were on fire. I was like, here comes Sydney. Yeah. I was even going to say to you, I was like, oh, they're wearing the black, shorts. Maybe you can get on board with Sydney as your black, red and white team.
Yeah.
But no, they turned in as Security. They put on the black and they turned in as Security.
I got to say though, I like that outfit. I think my initial thought was that doesn't make any sense, but then you think about like the Giants have got their, Darth Vader outfit. I think it looks good, the black shorts.
I like it too.
I'm not a huge fan of the heart monitor jump Guernsey, but I think paired with the black shorts, it looks better.
Yeah, I liked it. I reckon it looks. Yeah, I was. Apparently, they're doing it all season in Clash games. They're wearing the black shorts, which is maybe South Melbourne used to do it or something.
Well, it's a very old school, like junior footy thing, right? Black shorts,
white shorts, right?
But white shorts was always away, wasn't it?
That's what I was. But these days, I like the whole lean into there's no rhyme nor reason necessarily, as long as it doesn't clash.
I feel like this year more than ever, like fashion has been such a big part of the AFL. With every team has 5 different alternate jerseys and stuff, and then
I mean this whole block colours thing. Just wearing the same color shorts, the same color tops, you can't even see the logo, Gold Coast Suns. But, a few teams have leaned into having a version. I love it.
Yeah, I do too. And also it spills over into kind of streetwear. Like there's so many, I mean, I think half of them are owned by actual players, but there's all these streetwear brands that are doing really cool things with licensed kind of like logos and stuff. It's like, it feels weird because we are of a generation that still remember when it was a suburban game played by mostly, country blokes and part-time footballers who didn't take care of their appearance, like to drink, and now we've seen it become this like totally super professional sport where all the players are these like finely tuned instruments and the fashion and the marketing that comes with it. And it's like, oh, wow.
Well, I remember like when Buddy, it was Nina and Pasadena or whatever that brand was.
His T-shirt.
And it felt like that was the era where it was like, what? He's got a fashion brand. He's got a T-shirt.
Is that like Brett Lee's T-shirts? Who's going to wear those?
Yeah, right? Yeah. And now everyone's you're 3 years into the competition, you've got your own fashion range.
Liam Henry, who came from Freo to the Saints a couple of years ago, part of his motivation to get to Melbourne was he's very interested in fashion.
Right.
And he wanted to get on the ground floor in Melbourne. It's a bigger market. And I was like...
because the Hockball thing came from the brand, right? They were calling it the Hockball. I mean, you can't imagine at the Bulldogs, Danny Southern, rocking into a press conference and just being like, I've got a new range out today. It's called Dogs Balls.
Yeah. I remember a photo shoot that I think it was, for the 4 picks of the Coleman medal. It was Dunstall, Ablett, Lockett, and Dacos, and they were all in just like jeans. And I think Plugger was wearing Ugg boots, but had like the footy Guernsey over the top. It was just, and they turned up for this like media engagement, just in like Ugg boots and jeans, and I'll just chuck the footy jumper on.
I mean, also, can you just even imagine the idea of letting somebody whose feet were as valuable as Tony Lockett's to just be walking around in Ugg boots?
Sheepskin.
No protection.
Yeah. Freo did what they had to do against Adelaide.
Yes.
I think these two teams are so fucking hard to get a beat on.
No. I don't understand what's going on.
Or Adelaide, for that matter. Like Adelaide beat GWS last week, looked awesome, and then lose to Freo and don't look that awesome.
I don't think GWS are going that well at the moment. I watched that Bulldogs game and I thought the Bulldogs were good, but we are still very undemand, really. And we have there was 5 players who were under 20, 25 games or something for the Bulldogs. I think part of it is that GWS aren't going that well at the moment.
Yeah, I think the bellwether is Toby Green not being able to kick a goal anymore. Like the last 2 weeks, he's missed sitters. It's bizarre. Like in that one where he ran into the open goal and just kind of like soft touched it into the post. It was like, that's very Toby Green like. And I don't know what's going on. This happened with the Giants last year as well, where early on it was like, oh, they're going to win the flag. And then they sort of stumbled a bit. They still finished top 4. But the Doggies, I think, something instinctively spoke to me at the start of the year, and I said it half in jest, but I'm starting to believe that the Doggies can do it because you don't really have any, like all your players have good skills. Like who's your crappiest? We're going to get to the letters, and we're going to talk whipping boys, but just I want to hear from you. Who do you think is the most derided player at the Bulldogs? Like who's the one that's like, oh God?
It's interesting because a couple of our like whipping boys have become whipping men, Charlie. Because
was Buslinger ever a whipping boy?
No, he's almost been the opposite, which is that he was a high draft pick, like pick 13, but needed to learn how to defend properly, I think was and so they've in classic Bevo style, he's made him learn his position. Yeah. But as soon as then he gives him a game, he's like, oh yeah, I'm going to drop you for one of the best performance backmen in the league for the last few years and throw your other backman down into the forward line. And by the way, could you just handle this by yourself? You know, it was pretty amazing that he was able to stand up and do as good a job as he was doing. But I would have said, if I had to have a guess, that, I mean, obviously Rory Lobb was, and he turned it around. He was at the Bulldog. I reckon Vandermeer was probably one who was a bit of a whipping boy. And he this year has just been fantastic.
Yeah, it's funny. The one thing I noticed about watching most of the games this weekend is that the really good teams, it's that intense. The thing that separates the good teams and the bad teams is pressure. When it gets to a very pressurized situation or very contested is the most blatant. The teams that still hit targets, and the Bulldogs are one of those teams where, like, I don't know what the tactical description for this is, but it's when there's like a stoppage and the ball's contested, the Dogs and other good teams like the Dogs will they'll just clear one handball backwards in order to go forward. It's always like they play 2 people off the halfback, or there's two players behind the ball, and they work the ball backwards to go forwards. Because when they do that, you can actually set up the field in front of you. Whereas St Kilda, we get the ball and we got first possession heaps of times, but then it's just this panic kind of hitting to no one. It's like, why don't we have a set play or some kind of strategy to this? Why are we charging in head first to get the ball, and either we get it, we get stripped of it by the opposition, or we get it and we just like fling it out willy-nilly to no one?
I do think that there is sneakily, and I think part of it was because Kennedy has come in at the Bulldogs and been fantastic. I think part of it is that Bontempelli was out, and it meant that Richards and Fraser and all these guys have had so much more time in the midfield. But it feels to me like sneakily the Bulldogs now have like 14 midfielders.
It does.
Like I know they've always been a bit of a team of midfielders, but I think we could not see the forest for the tall timber, the trees in the last few years, where we got seduced by this idea that there was like the tall Bulldogs, and we kind of forgot the idea that the Bulldogs are at their best. And I think Bevo is at his best when Bailey Williams and Bailey Dale and like all these guys, and like Fraser's 6'6" or something, just like is a contested midfield beast.
And the best part about that is next year you get to draft his brother Niles.
Well, you know what the weird thing is? He's on a diet that is only chopped salad and scrambled eggs, which is...
so Geelong lose today, and well done, Blues. We'll give you your props. I feel like we've been pretty easy on Carlton. Like we haven't been mocking them. We thought we were going to, but as Blue Broad has taught us, we have more in common as footy supporters than we have dividing us. But do you always feel with Geelong, even when they lose, that they're going to be fine?
Yep.
Like you're never worried about them, eh?
No, because they even could have won that game.
Yeah.
Ball bounces a bit differently a few different times and they win that. You never feel, you're like, oh, they're fine. They'll be fine. They'll just go back to Geelong where they all live in mansions on farms on the ocean that float on the ocean. They're floating ocean farms in Moggs Creek.
I mean, I'm just looking at the ladder now.
Yeah.
And St Kilda is 1 win off 4th position on the ladder.
Yes. Right. Because the Bulldogs apparently having one of the best seasons they've ever had, and we're 4-3. Yeah. Like, it's fine.
I mean, the Bulldogs are 2 wins off top spot, 1 win off being 3rd or equal 2nd on the ladder. It's a long season, everyone relax. But let's get to the mailbag, Will, because we've had a big response. We're going to tidy up just a few, just the last few AFL hotties have come in. So we'll just wrap this up. David says, hey guys, love the pods. But why people have been adding their references, being able to talk to this topic. So I'm just letting you know that I'm a gay Collingwood supporter.
Oh, yeah.
Therefore, I want to say, why is no one talking about Cam Rayner?
Oh.
Cam Rayner. I guess he's got a bit of that Mario Lopez from Saved by the Bell. Like he's kind of muscular and...
Yeah, I reckon I can see it. I'm looking at some images of him right now, and
how much of like the AFL hottiness do you think just comes down to fit man?
Yeah, like, but they're all pretty fit man now these days, right? They're all fit man. Even Jamara, who's not like playing at the moment, is still pretty fit man. Like when they're doing shirts off and skins in the change rooms beforehand, everyone's kind of fit man. I think that Rayner, when he has short hair, like I don't know if you've when he's like kind of just got that real kind of short lean up, looks very handsome. When he's got the longer hair, it makes him look a bit
goofy.
Yeah, I'm going to say goofy.
He looks a bit what's the word? Like he's still at uni or something. Like he looks like the best friend from the OC.
That's right. Yeah, he's a
sidekick.
Yeah.
He's Dane Zorko's sidekick. Well, this makes sense. So April, who started this whole AFL Hotties thing, we'll give her the last word on this. She says, you guys were talking about hot ruckman last week, and this is an issue I've long struggled with. My fantasy football team is heavy on the fantasy and light on the football. So every year I try and pick the hottest 18 rather than the most skilled.
Okay, great.
Ruckmen are the hardest slots to fill because quite frankly, you're absolutely right. They are goofy.
Yeah.
My current hot ruckmen are TDK, who by the way looks much less goofy with short hair.
Yep.
And the Thunderbirdie Tim English, who conversely looks better with longer hair. Now, I don't think I've ever seen Tim English. To me is an enigma in the sense that I feel like he has not changed his look the entire time he's been in the AFL system. Has his hair ever not been a short back and sides?
No, it's been like that the whole time. And it's kind of, it gets a bit buffier sometimes. But again, I was watching him play and I was thinking, he's a midfielder. I mean, I know a ruck is a midfielder, but he doesn't play like a ruckman. He just plays like a tall midfielder.
Yeah, it's like Ryan Marshall's the same.
Yeah. Look, here's what I'm going to say is there's one photo that he's looks pretty thin in that I'm looking at right now. And so I reckon it's pretty from early in his career. And he's got kind of a bit longer, just a bit like a bit of a more boyish, kind of haircut. And I like it. I reckon he would look good if he let it sort of,
I mean, if he went to Geelong and the Geelong effect took over.
Yes.
And he grew it out, got himself a white headband.
Yes.
Because at the moment, he also doesn't look very Footscray.
No.
Like you don't have many blonde dorks in your history, do you? So I guess Simon Beasley. He was kind of a balding blonde dork.
Yeah. Like, is there a chance that, because I would love nothing more, because Beasley had he had the real sort of clown style, kind of curly at the back and then like really
thin on top.
Yeah, thin on top. Could because you could just do that. Like you could go into a hairdresser, and like with Tim English's good head of hair, he could go in with a picture of Simon Beasley and say, make me like this. Give me a Beasley.
Because that's what the Dogs need is Rory Lobb at one end with his fucking crazy haircuts.
Yeah.
Then you got Tim English the other.
With a Beasley.
This is from Ash, and this kind of we are the right people to answer this question. It relates to our other podcast, TOEFOP, which people can get in the Unrelaxed feed. It comes out every Wednesday. Did either of you happen to catch the Lions and Pies game a couple of weeks back? There was a moment in the commentary where they were talking about Gen Z lingo, and they told Lethal Lee Matthews he'd be referred to as a Sigma if he played today.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Despite being a good couple of decades younger than you both, I'm not up with the lingo. Isn't Sigma down in the alphabet? Wouldn't Alpha be better? See, I'd describe Lethal as an Alpha. Rather than Googling it, I thought I'd ask two middle-aged white guys on an AFL-adjacent podcast to clarify me. Is Lee Matthews Sigma?
Well, so S tier, we've learnt, is the top tier with the young people, which stands for Sigma tier.
In the same way that an ace in a deck of cards rates higher than a king, Sigma rates higher than an A or an Alpha.
Yeah, so it's the highest level of all S tier.
And I would say Lethal is definitely
Lee Matthews
Sigma.
is absolutely S tier.
Yeah. Just do the player of the century. There's a bit of Ross Lyon in my Lee Matthews there.
wasn't quite full Lethal.
I almost forgot, Will. Probably the most exciting news to come out of the AFL.
I think the Hawks are going to be okay.
This week was this.
Will Anderson and Charlie Clausen.
Oh, yeah.
Podcast.
Hang on.
Ballers?
What's going on?
They call us the equivalent of Waldorf and Statler.
I don't think that's a compliment.
I don't think so either. But I appreciate the text. 330. Appreciate it.
Now, thanks to whatever listener wrote into Fireball, the interesting part of that, because I've listened to it a few times, I did send it to you, is that when David King says, Will Anderson, Charlie Clausen, their podcast, you get Kane hopefully asking if we're ballers, because his whole thing is like their fans are, Fireball fans are ballers.
Yeah.
And it was like he's excited to know if we're baller fans.
Are we ballers, do you think?
I am.
Well, we both listen.
Yeah.
Would we consider ourselves to be ballers?
I think so. I mean,
because are ballers like just people who listen to their show, or do you have to be like a super fan of Kane and Kingy to be considered? Like, do you have to have bought in to the idea of Kane and Kingy, or do you?
I think we definitely qualify as ballers because we were saying that we were unsure at first, but we find their specific combination to be really appealing. And it's not an odd couple thing. It's more of a married couple kind of thing.
There's an element of odd couple, but I feel like Kane and Kingy have filled the hole that Gary has not been able to fill with Jared on AFL 360 for me, in that I like there to be something about the relationship that I find off-putting or awkward or weird, or, like, I guess in a Ricky Gervais office style, sometimes I like to be able to roll my eyes very hard at like a joke that they go away, or the way that they banter with each other, or whatever it might be. So, but when you sent me that, I was like, are we ballers? I guess we are ballers. I mean, I do listen to that show both on Monday and Friday.
Yeah, I think I'm definitely a baller. Like, it's definitely the first, if I go to the highlights, like when they, clip out a bit of the show, that's the first thing I'm going to.
And I know stuff about their show.
Yes.
And
how they're going to respond.
I know segments. I know what they'll do. I know that Kane keeps receipts. I know that King will tease Kane about being on all these shows, or taking off straight away, or whatever. I know all their touch points and their banter. And
and you know that Kane's kind of like a bit vain and obsessed with his body.
He'll do his shirt off.
Kingy doesn't mind like talking about how much he eats and drinks.
That's
like
right.
So there is a bit of that kind of dynamic going on. So I think we're ballers.
Yeah.
So the Kane goes on in after that clip to talk about like who are the most famous ballers who listen to the show. Like they started speculating. And for a second there, I'm like, were they kind of alluding that we are people of note who listen to the show, or did they have no idea?
Oh, interesting.
I mean, I just can't imagine that Kane Corns would have listened to an episode of this show.
No, but
he might know who you are.
Yeah, he might know who I am. He might, I don't know, like McLeod's Daughters was filmed in Adelaide.
That's true, actually. I've met his brother a few times.
Right, exactly.
He used to date one of the girls in McLeod's.
So he might have been a big fan of yours and followed you since McLeod's Daughters.
We talked about the D's a few weeks ago and about that, whether or not you would go over to Perth for that grand final. This is from Adam. He says, just touching on the guy that wrote in about having almost spent 16K to travel to Perth. My family are all Demons fans. We still have the newspaper poster of Max Gawn on our toilet door for over 3.5 years later.
Nice.
Save his boots, which our puppy Angus, named after Angus Brayshaw, destroyed a couple of years ago. We have plenty of other Demon stuff up around the house that has been there for a similar amount of time, including a teddy bear in the front room dressed in one of our jumpers when we were toddlers. I can empathise with his worry about seeing us lose that grand final. I went off to bed when it looked like the Dogs were on top, not because I'm a sore loser, but because I couldn't handle the thought of not seeing us get another shot. I was back 5 minutes later when we kicked a couple of quick ones, like a true Buller Fairing fan. Luckily, when I started seeing my girlfriend, I got her supporting the Ds, having followed Collingwood as a casual fan. In our 3 years, we have seen mostly wins on our trips to the G, but ultimately disappointing heartbreak come September, whilst her parents celebrated the 23 flag. In return, she got me onto Melbourne Storm, where I made the trip to Sydney last October to see us lose to the Panthers.
Oh, no.
So I guess that makes us even. I mean, does it make you even? I mean, she hasn't got, you didn't get her onto a losing, like the D's haven't made another grand final since then.
Yeah, but they won't either, probably, right? Like, I think we've all resigned ourselves to the fact that Melbourne had their go.
Now, we did put a call out for whipping boys. This comes from a D's fan, continuing the theme. I was the guy who wrote in about the 2021 grand final, and I mentioned that my dad had a life-sized Gawn up on the wall for years. Charlie misinterpreted that as the WEG night grand final poster, which it wasn't.
There was a life-size Max Gawn.
Rather, the Herald Sun printed a 4 to 5 page life-size print of Max Gawn you could stitch together.
Shut up. The Herald Sun, that's what newspapers are now. You know what?
Giant puzzles.
Because it was during COVID, so they're like, look, there's only so many articles we can write about Dictator Dan. Here's 5 pages of a life-size Max Gawn.
As for whipping boy nominations, for Melbourne, it used to be Alex Neil Bullen until he got good.
He is good now.
Was also a combination of Tom McDonald, Harrison Petty, or Charlie Spargo for a while, but now it's well and truly Charlie's old friend Jack Billings. Oh. My God, he's a proper spud. Oh, Jack Billings has been a whipping boy at 2 separate clubs.
Yeah.
It's not his fault he was drafted before Marcus Bontempelli.
It isn't his fault, but oh boy. It must just,
sting.
I mean, he probably, like you said, he has no role in where it is that he got drafted. He's probably tried his best to play good football wherever he's played football.
150 plus games.
And has at times shown glimpses of the potential that would have got him that higher draft pick.
Yeah.
But when you have somebody who is picked after you who is of the quality of Marcus Bontempelli,
like an all-time great,
it does make it, it hurts more.
Yeah. It's a Tambling being drafted before Lance Franklin. It has that kind of vibe about it. Richard Tambling.
Yeah, if Franklin is before you, you're like, okay, well, all right, then who cares?
And the Saints are often potted for how could you pick Jack Billings in front of Bontempelli? But people forget that Bontempelli was a real smoky. According to all the kind of draft watchers, Jack Billings was in the top 3. So St Kilda were just following what everyone else is saying. It was the McCartan in front of Petrarca one.
Yeah.
We got burnt by that. We're like, well, let's not make that mistake again. Let's pick someone who isn't rated at the top of the draft class when we have the number 1 pick. We'll pick a guy who probably isn't even in the top 10 and has concussion issues and is a diabetic.
Yeah, I tapped him on the head in the interview and he fell to the ground. Do you think that'll be all right though, right?
This is from Felicity. This is a 2-parter. She's going to talk about the Lions whipping boys, but she wanted to we talked about mounting that play at Adelaide Fringe about James Hird and Chris Scott. Here's a little tidbit that may interest you. Tidbit? Tidbit. Tidbit or titbit?
Both, I believe.
Here's a little titty bit.
I don't think that's it. A little itty bitty titty bitty.
Yeah. We are Brisbane fans.
Charlie, do you have an itty bitty titty bitty for me?
I do. We are Brisbane fans going back to the Bears days. In our house, Essendon forms one part of our axis of evil. Why? Well, after Brisbane's win in 2001, James Hird apologised to Essendon fans for losing, but never congratulated Brisbane for winning.
Oh.
We will forever hold it against him.
Oh, yes. This is good.
P.S. Brisbane's whipping boy is easily Eric Hipwood.
Yep.
Fans regularly shout abuse at him during games. It's terrible. We were in the stands.
He's good.
He's come good. He's your Rory Lobb. He's Brisbane's Rory Lobb.
It's true.
We were in the stands this gather round, and during the first half, some yelled out, "Do something, Eric," within his earshot. And you know what happened next. What happened?
He did something.
I kicked like 5 goals in the second half or something.
Yeah, he did. He did something.
I'm an Eric believer, by the way.
Yeah.
I remember when he was just a lanky teenager and Brisbane were no good and he got beaten up weekend after weekend. It's all paid off for him now. It certainly has.
Yeah, I agree.
He just looks like a whipping boy, doesn't he? Like, there's something about him. He's got whipping boy energy.
Yeah, I think so. And I just think that's what he's always going to carry with him, regardless. But I think he's turned himself into a very decent AFL footballer.
This is from Sean, and this kind of crosses over into AFL Hotties a little bit. He's a Pie supporter. It might surprise you to learn that Hot Takes contender Pat Lipinski is considered Collingwood's whipping boy.
That doesn't surprise me. At the Bulldogs, he was a bit of a whipping boy as well.
Right. Unfortunately for Pat, it's not because the ladies want to whip him, but due to a perceived lack of courage and polish when there is a contested ball. In fairness, we're spoiled by the Dacosses.
Yeah.
That is true. And I think people just expect class from all the Pies players. Just goes to show that not even good looks can save you when the chips are down. And that actually brings me to my whipping boy at the Saints, which has been unusual considering where this guy used to be held in the kind of esteem. But Jack Steele has become
the St Kilda's whipping boy.
Yeah. He's not having a great season, and our midfield is getting absolutely smashed. And he's our captain. And
how old is Jack Steele?
29.
Yeah. Okay.
Two all Australians, but his best period was between sort of 21 and 22. That's when he was like his absolute best, and then he got a range of injuries because he plays that very contested game, and he's just not back where he needs to be. And I'm seeing a lot of people.
But he's also one of those people who has suffered from the fact that he's had to carry so much of the load for so long.
Yeah, fucking oath. Like he needs
people around him so that he can have a steel side bottom style aspect of his career, right? Like 100%. Where he could have 3 or 4 years where he doesn't have to be the most important player.
And that is what most Saints fans want. Cal Wilkie is clearly, like him and Jack Sinclair are clear, and maybe Nasai, our best players. But Cal Wilkie is the most natural leader at the club. Like, people look to him as a leader. So I think the best thing the club could do is just take the captaincy off him and see if he can squeeze out another couple of years of good footy. But it is sad because he was our lone shining light for a few years there. And now to see the way people talk about him, it's like, oh, man. But that is football. Just one last thing before we go, Will. We did talk about that Colgate ad last week, the one with Petrarca and Isaac Heaney. This came in from Stuart. He says, like Will, I've spent a lot of time thinking about that Colgate ad. As a Melbourne supporter, I still can't believe that Petrarca agreed to be a doormat to Heaney.
Yeah.
And wonder whether he gets sledged by other players on the ground.
I bet he does.
I could just imagine someone like Bailey Smith wandering past when we're 6 goals up and saying something like, "Come on, Truck. Smiling can boost your performance."
Of course. You think that doesn't happen all the time?
Maybe that's why he didn't want to come back to the club. Maybe it's just the sledging.
Maybe they've been doing it at the club.
At training. Yeah. The other oddity about the ad is that it is essentially an ad for the AFL at the end, and even says something like Colgate, official smile partner of the AFL.
Yes.
But it randomly moves from Heaney and Petrarca to an archer, a sprinter, a swimmer, and a basketballer. Yeah, I hadn't noticed that, but you're right.
Yeah.
It is a weird ad. All right. That is 2 Guys, 1 Cup for this week. If you want to support this show, you can. You can join our Patreon. It's everyonerelax.com/ it's patreon.com. Patreon.com/everyone-relax. We put up the full video of this episode. It goes up 24 hours before people get it on our YouTube channel, which is Tofop TV. And while you're there, you can listen to all our episodes ad-free. That's probably the biggest attraction. And there's also like years and years worth of archived material to search through. Will, what have you got to promote?
This Friday night, I'll be in Narre Warren doing my Will Legitimate show. So if people are in the Narre Warren area and want to come along to see that. But otherwise, I've got a whole bunch of gigs all over the place. Comedy.com.au is the place to go for that. Oh, Gruen's back this week as well. So check that out on ABC iView.
This Friday, I'm going to my first live AFL game because I'm going to be in Melbourne. I'm going to watch the Saints take on the Dockers. Pray for me.
No, that might be all right.
I think
that might be all right.
I think it'll be all right. Look, there was one thing that Saints fans know. It's going with low expectations.
Yes, and the other thing I know about Fremantle are flaky Fremantle. And they've been good. So this is the perfect time to get flaky Fremantle.
Yeah, that's
off
right.
the back of them being good for a bit.
Yeah.
So you hope that they now lose one that they should win. This is perfect time to get Fremantle.
Play on, not 15.
Well.
Here to 40 loving dickheads, dreaming about a Premiership Cup. We love our clubs, but they never win. 2 flags in 100 years. The shit house. If you think we'll be insightful, clever, or just well researched, we're here to say that's not the case. We'll just go out and wing it. We are 2 guys, 1 cup.